This is the She Dares to Travel podcast, and I am your host, Raquella Pollock. After spending a decade managing the #1 travel agency in Canada, I am now here to connect you to women that are taking the travel industry by storm, as well as female business professionals that also have a passion for travel, just like me. We are here to inspire, uplift, and motivate you to not only follow, but plan out your dreams, no matter where in the world they may be. And of course, this wouldn't be possible without our sponsor, Staples Studio, where I am currently recording from. Check them out on their website, studio.staples.ca. It truly is a new approach to co-working with community at its heart. There's access to hot desks, meeting and event spaces all across North America. So thank you, Staples Studio, for connecting us and sponsoring this podcast. And thank you for listening. Enjoy, be sure to subscribe, and follow along. When it comes to beautiful British Columbia, Vancouver Island is definitely one place to put high on your bucket list. As your island gateway, Nanaimo Airport is conveniently nestled in the Central Island. It's located right between the hubs of the Cowichan Valley and Nanaimo, and you're only moments away from the ocean surf, mountain bike trails, year-round golf, wineries, and majestic mountains, just to name a few. The air terminal building has more than tripled in size over the years thanks to many projects that have taken place and a 20-year expansion plan for the building. And super fun fact, did you know that Nanaimo Airport actually started out as a base for the Royal Canadian Air Force? It was for glider pilot training facilities and wartime emergency airfield. And now more than 80 years later, it's a regional airport that's connecting Vancouver Island to the world. So definitely put Nanaimo Airport on your next destination list when you go to Vancouver Island. So go get outside and explore. Hello, all you daredevils. Raquella here, and I'm just so excited to be here with all of you to share yet another incredible story of a woman taking the lead in tourism, and this time it's about the motorsports industry. And we also have, surprise, hi, you can see us. We also have episodes on YouTube now, which is super exciting. So check us out over at She Dares to Travel. And really, these episodes are here to inspire you. They're to give you some travel inspiration. They're here to transport you across the world and just learn about some really incredible women that are taking the tourism industry by storm, or business women that just have a passion for travel and have traveled absolutely everywhere. So today we've got Julie Hunter with us. She is the Global Operations Officer and Director, aka COO, which we'll get into more as well, for Ultimate Driving Tours. Now, when I say Ultimate Driving Tours, this isn't just a standard tour operator. This is a European luxury driving holiday where you're actually going to get behind the wheel of a $500,000 vehicle, a Ferrari, a Lamborghini, something stunning with a lot of power. And you're going to drive through some of the most scenic places in the world and be wined and dined. So as we're talking today, picture ornate castles you're staying in, picture Michelin star restaurants, the best of the best. So this tour company, we will dive into a lot more as well, but they started as a small passion project, and now they've got multi-award winning global experience operator titles. They are recognized within the industry as a leader for providing extraordinary driving, motorsport, and track experiences. Julie, thank you so much for chatting with us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And what an introduction. That was amazing.
You're welcome. I've been practicing. So tell us a little bit about where you are in the world right now.
So right now I'm in Munich, which is actually our operations base in Europe. So we have our fleet of cars based here. And we also have our little space. We have nicknamed it the bunker or the Bat Cave, which is where all of our equipment is, and kind of grown over the years from being, us coming over with suitcases and bringing our radio equipment and, our uniforms and things across with us for the season, and taking them back to Australia, to now we have quite a large operational space. And it's always amazing when we walk in how much you can accumulate in a couple of years,
That's very true.
Sometimes we'll probably go through this one day.
So when you say Bat Cave, is it actually underground in a layer?
It is underground.
That is very cool, in a secure, undisclosed location, obviously.
Exactly. So the address is anywhere. So at the moment we share a supercar storage facility and incredible space where it's humidified, and there are all sorts of incredible cars stored there. And they have to be especially taken out on different lifts and things like that. So you can't really access the building at all. So it's super secure. And then separate to that is a storage facility as well, which has all of our equipment and things. So I think sounds a little bit more glamorous and exotic by saying it's a bat cave than what the reality.
My mind is blown. Definitely. I'm imagining the coolest bat cave. How many are in your fleet? How many vehicles do you guys have?
So we have at the moment about 14 cars. So that's a mix of the cars that we own and then also the support vehicles that we have as well. So it's really grown in the last couple of years. We, previously we were working with suppliers to arrange our fleet. And then as we've sort of grown and we've reached that tipping point, it's made sense to invest in our own fleet of cars. And now we've got a whole lot of little babies running around that you're always worried about. So I actually bid goodbye to two of our cars who are currently getting towed down to Verona, where we're about to start an event. So our Ferrari and our Corvette being towed by two of our team members. So the sport cars, the trailers, the supercars, and everything, we're all part of our equipment now. And it's great, but it's definitely added to religious things, trying to move over all over Europe for different events and experiences.
Definitely. Oh, that's really, really neat. Have you always been living in the UK? Or I know you mentioned Australia as well.
Actually, we have no fixed address.
Oh, right. Undisclosed. Got it. Yeah.
We split our time between Australia, which is obviously where we're from and where the business started. And then we have Europe operational base, but then we're also growing a lot into the American market, both in terms of our LPS base, so in terms of where we're in the middle of a financing round to buy a fleet of cars and launch the business over in the States and start to run it there too. So we sort of spend 6 months a year in Europe and the UK, 3 months in Australia, and then 3 months in America. So we don't actually have a home per se.
Okay, I gotcha. The nomad, the life of a nomad is where it's at. It's very cool. So did you go to college or university or post-secondary education for tourism at all? Or how did that look to get kind of into this route?
I didn't actually. Well, I went to university. I actually have 2 degrees under my belt, which I'm not technically using. I was accepted when I was in high school into a double degree. It was a Bachelor of Business and International Business. It was actually specializing in hotel management because I always knew I wanted to travel. And then I just didn't know if that was exactly what I wanted to do after school. And I sort of just wanted to take some time. So I ended up deciding to move to China and teaching English for a year, which was pretty wild for someone who'd never left Australia. The furthest I'd ever been was 1 hour south on a flight to Sydney. And then out of that, moving to China for a year, completely, obviously, extremely different to whatever I'd known growing up in Australia. But my 2 options at 18 were either to do the well-trodden path to London and, work in a bar or something like that, which is amazing and awesome and fun. But I just kind of wanted to do something a bit different. And the only qualifiable skill I had was teaching English, allegedly speaking English, something like that. Which really enough, something like that. But yeah, so I went over and taught for a year. And then at that time, it sort of gave me, a bit of exposure and some things, some knowledge that I wouldn't have had about the world and the way things operated. And it got me interested in humanity and the environment and the way that people interact with the environment and, societies as a whole. And so I ended up going back and I studied urban and environmental planning, specializing in community development as my undergraduate. And then I did a master's degree, a Master of Environment and Sustainable Development at Melbourne University. So I used my education, my college opportunities to travel quite a lot as well. I did my thesis in Nepal and lived in the Himalayas, my undergraduate thesis. Yeah. And then I did a summer semester in Prague. It's sort of like an early United Nations kind of course. So that kind of a lot of grounding in knowing that I wanted to get into something that would involve travel, but it was more likely looking at humanities at that sort of point. And then I finished my degree. I started working in engineering, which was sort of where the opportunities lay with my degree. And then along the way, I met my partner, Anthony, and I relocated with my company down to Sydney from Brisbane and then started helping him out. So basically, he was running on the side a bit of a hobby business, which was the NASCANT Ultimate Driving Tours. So he basically had a hobby business that he was running on the side. He's quite the entrepreneur and, was running a number of different things, but he'd run a national rally series in Australia, sold the business and sort of kept access to the database or kept some of the connections. And from there, he started to put out, a tour a year, which was basically to pay for his own bucket list. He is the motoring head.
I love that.
Exactly. I know. It's a very entrepreneurial, of course, as Anthony.
Mm-hmm.
So he put out, a trip to Nürburgring and then a trip to the Indy 500 in Indianapolis and things like that, and took a handful of people away. And from there, I was sort of helping him out a bit on the side with the organization. And I was, saying, I can't believe you're going to Europe and you're not staying in these incredible castles and chateaus. And, at that point, it was very much a boys' trip. So, it was guys going to drive fast cars, driving from dawn until dusk and, staying wherever and eating pizza and having a beer, amazing, a cool trip, but very different from the ultimate driving tours we know today.
Oh, wow. That is really unique. So essentially it was the passion from him. Have you had passion for motorsports too? Or is it kind of fed in from, starting to date him and see what he was doing and then using your bachelor or master's that you have and your business degrees to basically apply to the business? Or how did that interaction get hyped together?
So cars were never my thing. We always joke about this. We always ask people on tour, what was your first car and what's your dream car and things like that.
Yeah.
And my first car was a Daihatsu Applause. And, for me,
love it.
I loved that car so much. I saved my very hard-earned money from multiple after-school jobs and things. But yeah, I mean, for me, cars and motorsport were never a thing. And, but travel was always my bug. And so for us to come together, it was really a nice, like the perfect complement. And it's something that we often hear from guests on the tours and events that we run is that, we're this amazing team because Anthony has this incredible wealth of knowledge about cars and motoring and motorsports. And, it never ceases to amaze me and annoy me sometimes. He cannot remember milk or something coming home, but he could tell you, the 1972, something or other. I'm like, how do you remember that?
It's the interest. Milk, not interesting. Cars, very interesting.
But whatever has four wheels and a steering wheel, very interested. So, and then on my side, we both have a shared love of travel, and he did quite a bit of traveling, and it's always been a big interest of him. And then on my side, it was that just really combining unique and different experiences, and then we also complement each other a lot in the way that we operate within the business as well. Whether it's, I'm quite detail oriented, which comes from that sort of engineering and social environment background. And then he's quite big picture and things. So we come together really amazingly. And it's built the business from, being just me full time at the beginning in 2013 when I came on board to the two of us. And now we have a team around the world.
Wow. That is so special. And it's one of those things whoever they is in quotations, they always say you can never work with, a spouse or a friend. It's bound to fail. So what's a tip that you have for you guys working together this long?
I think the main thing is to find your niches in the business. And I think, it did definitely take us a couple of years when we were, smaller in building, and you're kind of finding your space so that you're not treading on each other's toes or you're not in each other's space, and you're each utilizing the skills that you have and celebrating each other for those skills rather than kind of, nitpicking at not having a skill set. It's amazing that he, incredible wealth of knowledge of cars, and then I bring different skills. So if we both had the same skill set, who knows where we would be? We might not have gotten to where we are now. So I think that it's really nice to find and celebrate your own niches and to build each other's skill sets and build things out from there as well.
Mm-hmm. It sounds very complemented. Absolutely. So it's very lucky you guys found each other in that way. And then you can still have your passion to travel too, which is obviously so important. With when it started, how many cars did you guys have to start with 14 now?
We didn't own any of the cars at the beginning. So we would come over, we would work with a network of suppliers in Europe. And that was both for the support cars and for the supercars as well. And we kind of source everything on the ground here in Europe, which is, it's kind of convenient in one way because the cars get delivered and, they're there and they're not your problem before or after. But it comes with a lot of risk as well. And, we had a lot of challenges trying to find good suppliers, particularly in this market where it does tend to attract a certain type of person when you are working in a space of supercars and Ferraris and Lamborghinis. And, when you're dealing with big deposits and, a lot of expectation, we have guests who are flying in expecting to drive beautiful cars and the latest release Ferraris and Lamborghinis and McLarens. And if something happens and, someone's trying to deliver you a car that isn't up to scratch or isn't up to what you're expecting or what the guest is expecting, then that reflects on you. So to have the opportunity to purchase our fleet has been amazing. And, it's come with its own interesting logistics and things like that. But to bring that risk in-house has been really important for the growth of the business. And then also, there's the margins and all of those sort of aspects as well.
Wow. Congratulations then on purchasing and having and owning the 14 vehicles, because that's incredible. Very huge accomplishment after so many years of being together. And as you were saying, people are coming with the expectations of driving a supercar. It makes me think of recently I was just in Maui, bless Maui right now with all they're going through. And when we went to go pick up our rental vehicle, without fail, they always say at car reservation places, oh, yeah, we don't actually have your vehicle. And it goes back to the, I don't know if you've watched Seinfeld, but I just saw a Seinfeld episode that's like, what do you mean you don't have my reservation? That's why I reserved the vehicle. Oh, no, we don't have that, but you can have something else. It's just so funny. So I can assume that rarely happens for you guys.
Not too much anymore. So it's always the way you work with companies, rental companies. I mean, they often, I think that in the small print, it's like if you're renting a premium vehicle, it'll be Mercedes-Benz or BMW or equivalent vehicle. And so the equivalent vehicles, they have, Volkswagen Turags and things like that. Great car, but probably not the same level as, a Mercedes wagon or something that you're expecting to pick up. And
that's so true
to our guests. When you're booking with us and when you're operating at this price point, we're not going to sub you in, a Fiat. Yes, a Fiat 500 for Ferrari.
They are pretty cool. I do agree. They're very cute and they're cool, but no, not in this case. Oh, that's so funny. So then with where you guys are now, when you guys started, what was the vision? Was it still kind of a side hustle, passion project, or was it something that you guys knew you wanted to grow to where you are right now?
I think it was something we wanted to grow and something that we were interested in growing together. But I don't think at the beginning, when we sort of first started to work together, we really knew what it would grow into. And for us, me coming into the business at the beginning, it was my first time really dipping my toe into the entrepreneurial side of things. I'd come from a corporate background and, for me, I was one of the first in my family to go to university and, to kind of have those opportunities. And so for me, I never really thought about moving into an entrepreneurial sort of space and starting a business and things like that. My plan was to eventually work for the United Nations and, to kind of operate in a big company. And so moving into that, this small business and learning to wear every hat. And, when I first came into the business, I literally did a graphic design course. I built our website, built our social media, all that sort of, all these things that you kind of have to do in your small business. And we bootstrapped with everything we did. If you needed to do Google advertising or any kind of sort of marketing or PR, it was really as much of a guerrilla operation as you could manage. And it wasn't until really sort of around 2017, 2018 that we started to have little bits of budget to put towards things and, to be able to take those incremental growth aspects where you could invest a little bit more the next couple of months than you did the previous and kind of really everything we've done over the years is putting money back into the business and focusing on that growth. So it's been an amazing experience to get it to where we are. And I think having the pandemic happen, which was the best of times and the absolute worst of times for the travel industry. I mean, for us, we were so busy working in the business and kind of flat out through the season. And even we're back at it now. And I don't think we've really had a proper day off since.
So then it's safe to say you guys have come back full force after the pandemic, would you say?
We really have. So it gave us an opportunity to really take stock of where we were at with the business, because we did spend those first, what was it, 8 or 9 years where we were working when, I came in full time and then Anthony came in full time, I think in around 2015. And from there, we started to build the team out. You just kept building and investing and growing and building. And you don't really have a lot of time to stop and think about what direction you're really trying to steer this ship in. During COVID, we really sort of sat down. We thought, well, we're hitting this critical mass of the business. What do we want to do? Where do we want to take it? And we decided we really wanted to be the best in it in our field, which is a bit of a niche industry. So we sort of see that we're positioned as luxury within the luxury adventure tour operator space, which is a niche space in itself. You've got luxury travel, And then you've got luxury tour operators, and then you've got the luxury adventure tour operator space, which is where you're sort of wanting guests to really be engaged in their experience. So it's, less of a passive travel experience where you might be, laying on a beach, sipping cocktails, or sitting by the pool in the Maldives, or something along those lines, which is amazing. It's more for people who want to have that experience where you're part of it. So for us, when we get people often to the end of a trip, there's a sense of accomplishment, because it's definitely not easy. I mean, it sounds amazingly glamorous, and it is glamorous, driving Ferraris through the Swiss Alps and staying in 5-star chateaus. It's incredibly glamorous, but you have to get up in the morning. You have to drive throughout the day. You have to be a part of the experience. And, you get to the end and, things happen along the way. And, there's the cars, these are mechanical beasts. Sometimes things happen where, we're quite fortunate now that we're in a space where we actually always have a spare supercar on the trip. In case something does happen, whether it's, person based, or whether, a car just has a moment and stops.
Yeah.
So, we get together, we overcome challenges, and you get to the end, and, the team, the guests, you've experienced it, you shared in this experience together, and it's quite unique. So that's how we sort of see ourselves positioned within that luxury adventure tour operator space. And then within that, we're the driving niche. So, we specialize in supercars as our mode of transport, if you will. So we've sort of really tried to reposition the business and reposition the marketing away from being a driving tours business, where we see that as more of a bit of a masculine space, I guess, where it's boys doing a rally and driving hard and fast and partying, or, whatever it is. And there are plenty of different experiences out there that do cater to that space. But what we like to say to our guests is that this is a drive for ladies and gentlemen. This is, where we're going to take some beautiful cars, we're going to drive some beautiful roads, but we're going to enjoy them as well. We're not there to rip through the countryside and not take in, any of the surrounds. We're there to really enjoy the spaces. And then we're there to get into a beautiful hotel in the afternoon or the evening, have some time to go to the spa, do a wine tasting if you're in Tuscany. Maybe you go truffle hunting and only do a half day of driving, or something along those lines. And then you stay in a beautiful 5-star hotel, have an amazing dinner, and then you get up at a nice time in the next morning and you do it all over again. So it's really that lifestyle balance with the drive.
That's amazing. That sounds like what I should be doing right now, actually, I feel. I'll talk to my husband. We need to make this happen. This is pretty special. It's really unique. And I like how you guys are taking it where you're right. It's not like I've read on your website, you can have your track day experience, which we actually here in the South Okanagan, so south of Kelowna, we have a large racetrack. And a lot of people actually do bring their cars onto the track. And I've been there for some track days. Super fun. Super, super fun. So it's cool that you can still get that rush or need for speed if you want, but really you can just take it all in. And that's something that's so special about a lot of places when you travel. It's one thing to be, what do they say, a tourist, and it's one thing to be a traveler. So to be able to actually be immersed in the culture and see things from a different perspective, or go on like a river cruise versus a big cruise ship. So it seems like you guys really have found a good, unique niche for what you're doing, which is really cool. Really cool. So you mentioned about, couples. Do you guys have a type of like target demographic, or who typically comes on the trips? Is it a lot of couples or singles, or kind of a mix?
It's really shifted over the years. So as we've continued to sort of refocus the target market or the target marketing of the business, we've really shifted into having a lot of couples, and we're really clear that it's definitely not a boys' trip. I mean, we still get, groups of friends and father-sons and things, the brothers come along, which is amazing. But we just want to make sure it's that safe and supportive space where, women feel comfortable. And we really want to make sure that it's also that really inclusive space where women will actually get behind the wheel and drive and feel supported and feel part of a community, which I think has been the biggest surprise for a lot of our guests over the years, because people still sort of think that, it's going to be a boys' trip. We're going to, it's not going to be for me. Mm-hmm. I might just passenger, I won't drive. But we always sort of say to people, bring your license, just do the paperwork anyway. And then, there's plenty of different sections. Like the driving isn't always super technical, where maybe you're doing, the hairpins or switchbacks of Stelvio Pass up and down the mountains and things. There are some really beautiful valley sections where you're just cruising along in a gorgeous Swiss valley, the snow-capped Alps on either side, the little charming villages with the cows on the outside with the little bells going, things like that. It's very sound and easy to get. That's the perfect time if you're, just kind of wanting to get a feel for the cars to jump behind the wheel. We have a lead and sweep car with the group as well. So the lead car is sort of, so all of the cars, radios, the lead car is letting you know what's happening up ahead. So if there's any navigational aspects, so you're not in the car fighting over, hey, I told you to turn left, or the navigation system said turn left and you turned right. So it's taking away any of those sort of distractions or sources of conflict that people might have when they are going on a driving holiday by themselves or with their partner or things like that. And then we have a sweep car as well. And so the idea of having that convoy system is not to restrict anyone's enjoyment. The lead car tends to move at a decent pace and what we call, more spirited for those people who do want to be a little bit more spirited with their driving. And for people who want to just relax, enjoy the scenery, or maybe if it is a partner or wife getting behind a wheel for the first time, it gives them that opportunity to not feel pressured to keep up with the group, because there is that car behind you. You're never going to be left behind. And in the end, we all arrive at the same stops together, whether it's, stopping for lunch at a beautiful winery or, stopping for morning tea at a little cafe on the side of the Alps or something like that, or getting into the hotel and, hanging up the evening and having a glass of champagne.
I love that, because that actually, that sounds a lot less stressful. And like, we've rented cars all over the world, in particular Ireland we went to, and it's the other side of the road for us, different from obviously here in Canada. And I remember when we picked up the vehicle, same thing, reservations. Oh no, we don't have that vehicle. And I made sure that it was going to have GPS. So then they put us in a vehicle. I'm like, hold on, you're telling me there's no GPS in this vehicle? I'm like, if you do give us a vehicle with GPS, this is going to be the end of our marriage. I'm like, it will not work. We are not going to, I cannot be the co-pilot. So it's nice you have like a pace car that actually can be the co-pilot, and you don't have to worry about that kind of stress. Because when you have a powerful vehicle on like that you're driving, it is intimidating if you're not used to it. So it's something where if you want to make sure that you do want to drive, and I know I would love to drive, but the going past the cattle sounds more my route versus like into a city or town. That wouldn't go well. Yeah.
They are the most stressful as well. I mean, we really try to take people away from those big cities and get them out into the countryside. So, we steer clear of a lot of places that people tend to have been, which is nice as well. So, everyone, as a generalization, people are typically well-traveled in terms of having gone to Paris or Milan or Venice or, the general tick boxes, Rome, in Europe in particular. So we like to say to people, the idea of what we do is to really get you out into places that you would never know existed, whether it's, properties up in the Alps and things that you wouldn't even know to research because they're so difficult to get to. And also those little vendors and operators where, we've spent months in the countryside of Tuscany. Terrible first world problem to have with our job. I mean, we have to go and mess everything for everyone, make
Have to.
sacrifice we make. But we really like to get people away from the well-trodden areas of paths and get them out into the countryside where they can enjoy these destinations, enjoy these cars. And part of what we sort of really like to see is luxury, is that we take away all of the challenges and the obstacles and the decision-making. So when you're on our small group guided tours, we have a full team there to support you. And it's typically a 1-to-2 ratio. So 1 staff member per 2 guests. So if we have, 16 guests, we'll have 8 to 10 staff members there. And they're there as part of the drive team to be there to operate the lead and sweep vehicles. They also check people in and out of each of the cars. So as part of the small group tours, you actually drive all of the cars. So you're in the Ferrari in the morning, then you move into the Lamborghini, the Aston, Mercedes. So you drive the whole fleet of cars over the 3 to 4 days of driving.
Cool.
Our team are there. So our drive team are all young professional racing car drivers or professional driving instructors who know these cars, who are there to help you to get the most out of your driving experience, make sure you're comfortable, all that sort of stuff before you take off. And so you can really enjoy the cars as you're driving and you've got that support around you. And then we have a logistics team as well who are running in front of the group, who are making sure parking's available, everything's set up and organized. So when we guests sign up on an event, we actually have a really, long sort of gestation period where we get to know who our guests are. So what's your favorite coffee? What do you want to drink in the morning when we have a coffee stop? What do you want to drink in the afternoon? What's your favorite aperitif? So when we get into the hotel, if your favorite drink is a Hendrick's gin and tonic and your wife is a glass of ornate champagne, then that's what we have available. So you literally get out of the car as you arrive to the hotel, your drinks are there waiting. The hotel has all your documentation. Your luggage is moved from room to room. You So you don't even move your luggage. You literally wake up in the morning, pack it up, leave it there, and then it'll be in the afternoon. So we choose the menus, we choose everything along the way. So we also know what people like to eat, what they don't like to eat, if they drink red wine or white wine at dinner or both or neither. So we can really tailor this experience and curate it for each guest, and then know that we can deliver what they want and what they would want for themselves if they were to choose, but taking away that decision fatigue at the time. So when you come on a trip, there's no decision, you just relax.
That is absolutely the dream. And I read on your website, I read one of the reviews or feedback comments, and it was more than first class. It was its own class or something along those lines. And the way that you're describing it, that's exactly what it sounds like. And then there was a news article in the EIN newsletter where it mentioned frictionless travel, which that's exactly what that sounds like. And I've never heard that term before. In all my years in tourism, I've never heard frictionless travel, but technically, I mean, as a tour operator or travel agent, that's what you strive to do. But it sounds like you guys are taking it to the next level, which is pretty special sounding, very, very special and memorable, right? Like that's what have people coming back. Do you guys get a lot of repeats?
Yeah, we have a really high repeat rate. Most of our guests who do at least 2 events will go on and come on an event with us every other year. And it's amazing. We've built this incredible community. And I think that's one of my favorite parts of what we do is that we have strangers from around the world arrive into a destination. And often people, and I'm totally a culprit of it as well. When you think about sort of groups, I'm like, I'm not a group traveler. That's not my vibe. But we have this really interesting mix of people because all of our guests tend to be cut from a very similar cloth, even though they're from all over the world, from different backgrounds and businesses and different walks of life, is that they're adventurous, they're interesting. When you're sort of operating in our space, they're obviously relatively successful in their own lives. So most of our guests tend to be self-made, they've built businesses, they've led really interesting lives, they've worked hard at that point in their life where they want to enjoy their successes, enjoy their travels, and really basically enjoy the things that they often haven't had time to do when they've been so busy building businesses and families and things like that. We tend to attract a more mature traveler, so as compared to, a tour or sort of the younger under bracket where you're still short of time and probably less disposable income as well. So our guests arrive in from around the world not knowing each other, but because they are quite similar in that sense, over our tours are typically around 6 to 7 days in length, 3 to 4 days of driving, and then the other experiences tend to build in around, whether that is, going up in a chartered helicopter and into the Swiss Alps, or truffle hunting in Tuscany, or wine tasting in Provence, or anything along those lines, depending on the destination. We have that opportunity to really get to know each other as well. And as I was saying, it is that sense of accomplishment where you achieve something at the end, you feel like you've done something as a community and you've built this network of like-minded people you would never have met, cross paths with in your life. That's, the most, I think, rewarding part of what we do is, and then we have WhatsApp chats with all of the groups now where we sort of set up a WhatsApp chat at the beginning and it allows us to send out notifications and keep people updated and things. But it connects a group to each other as well. So often I'll wake up in the morning and you wake up to 10 or, 15 different group chats and people are still chatting from the trips that they've been on over. One of our groups in particular from early this year, they got along so incredibly well. They message each other every single day. They're making plans to meet up. They're sending, photos to the group chat where people have gone to different states and they've met up with different people in Australia and in America as well. And so it's quite cool to know that our business, our baby, has brought them together, has brought these people together and hopefully made lifetime friendships and memories and all of that sort of the things that are really hard, I think, to put into marketing speak. It sounds a little bit lame.
Yeah. I mean, not lame, but you're right. It's like you come as strangers, you leave as friends, or you'll make these like worldly connections. You're right that you never would have. And that's something my husband and I have always loved about travel. And it's just striking up conversations with people, whether we're sitting at a bar or we're out and about and we make a comment about something that everyone's looking at. And, you just strike up. And the easiest thing is, where are you from? Or do you live here? How, wow. And then you just go from there. Like, it's the best. So that's really cool that you guys have created that culture as well.
Exactly.
Yeah, really cool.
And that, for me as well, I've still got friends that I've met through years of backpacking and things that are still connected with on Facebook and maybe talk all the time. But, you see their different life milestones and things, and then you reach out and say, hey, what's going on? And you'll still have a conversation. And, even if you're in town sometimes, because we do travel quite frequently, whether it's to America or, to the UK or to Australia, you're sort of like, hey, I'm coming to Minneapolis next week. Are you still there? And, oh my God, I'm still there. Let's have dinner. So those kind of unique friendships that you can pick up, over time, which are really amazing.
Totally. Yeah, it's the travel friendship. You kind of like secretly see each other from a distance through Facebook constantly. And I'm like, oh yeah, I still have them on there from 10 years ago. I now know that they're, pregnant kids, life's gone on, they've moved. Yeah, it's funny how that works. What would you say the average age range is? Do you guys have quite a broad range, or is it, a little bit more specific?
Typically, our primary sort of guest base is 45 to 70 probably. So it's people who do tend to have, as I was saying before, there's those two aspects of life, whether you have spare time or you have spare money, which I think you need both to travel. And so our guests tend to be in that stage of their life where they have built their businesses, they've built their families, and they tend to be in a stage where they do have that ability to take a little bit more of an extended time period off. And it is those bigger trips. So our guests tend to come across and they'll come on a tour with us, which might be, 6 to 7 days long, but they'll build that in as part of a wider trip, which might be 3 or 4 weeks in Europe, where, they might do a couple of days in those big cities, fly into Milan and have a couple of days there, or fly into Paris and have a few days there, come on a trip with us, then they'll go across to the UK, or they might go to a wine region or do something where they have a bit of downtime and then, head back from there. So we do tend to find it is a little bit more of a mature demographic. But as we're sort of finding, it is shifting over time as well. So there is that younger demographic now, which I think, the YOLO, why not? Why put off, the things that we love when we can do it now? We can, arrange childcare for the kids, or, and we do have those family support networks and things. Yeah. It is amazing as well. For us, it doesn't really matter, what the age of people are.
Yeah.
Main thing that we like is that people are happy to be a part of that group culture, and they're happy to be at the dinners and to be at the lunches and sharing those experiences with other people as well.
Yeah, like you said, it's the same passion or the same common interest anyways, to want to go on such a niche trip and then meet other people that also want to do it. So fantastic in that way. So I want to ask you, switching gears into, I know you mentioned just when it started, it was like boys club, driving. How has it been being a woman in the automotive industry? Because I know there's these crazy stats out there where, it's less than 20% or 25% for women in automotive in, the US alone. So I know it's got to be a small window. So I guess 2 questions. How has it been, and how have you noticed any changes from when you started to now?
It's definitely probably for us a little bit of a split. So interestingly enough, our team, our office team are all women, and I love that. Like, I love having friends and colleagues and it's all family who have helped us to really build the business, and we wouldn't be where we are without this incredibly strong-minded women that we do have in the business who, really push and have become part of the fabric of the business. So I absolutely love that. And then on the event side, I guess, on the ground, it does tend to be more masculine, or there do tend to be more guys present, particularly in our team, because it is that young racing car sort of driver network that we do have on our driving team. And then on the logistics and content, it does tend to be often more male dominated. But for us, we would really love to balance that out a lot more, and to have, as many women on the ground as we definitely can. And then on the event side, just on the guest side, there definitely has been a shift. So when I first came into the business in 2012, 2013, the events were primarily guys who were here to drive. And it was a very different demographic of people that we had coming in. And then over the years, as it shifted, we often had guys come and they say, man, my wife would really have loved this trip. And so they come back the next time with their wife and they share in this adventure together. And I think that that's something that I've really loved to see in the way the business has evolved, is that we've had particularly partners who at the beginning would have definitely said, no, this is not my kind of trip, see the evolution of the business and come in and experience it and go, wow, this is firstly amazing and I'm really enjoying this trip, but it's also a way that we can travel together and do something that we both find really interesting, because often holidays become a compromise, right? It becomes a compromise of what this and you want to do that. So do we split the holiday 50-50 and I'll do the thing that I like and you can come along, whether or not it's willingly or, and then you can do your thing. Or, historically in the past, what we would find as well is that we would have couples come to Europe on a 3-week holiday. And then for the 1 week that the guys would come on a trip, the wife would do something else. And now we just don't really see that as a case. So most of the time people will come together on this trip and they will both really enjoy it, whether it is sharing in the driving or whether the one partner chooses not to drive, but they've got that balance of having all of the lifestyle, having the, the beautiful hotels, the dining, the wine tastings and things like that, which still make it interesting. And then you're also moving to different destinations as well. So even if cars and driving are not your thing, you're cruising through the Swiss Alps and you're seeing them and you're getting out and experiencing a new destination in a way that you probably wouldn't have otherwise
seen before. Yeah. It sounds absolutely spectacular. It really, really does. And I'm wondering too, like being, working within the automotive industry, what challenges have you faced? Like, has there ever been times where, a lot of it's really just being a woman having a seat at the table or not having a seat or trying to have a seat. And I just wonder if that's still kind of the case that you've felt, or there's been any challenges like that throughout your career in automotive as well that you've had to overcome.
Probably not so much. I mean, because we're in a travel space, I guess, more than the automotive space. I definitely haven't faced the same challenges that I think a lot of women really face when breaking into whether it's motorsport or things that do really, really male dominated. And, I hats off to all the women out there who are really making leaps and bounds in that space and pushing their way into motorsport and Formula One. And whether it's, from the driving perspective or whether it's the engineering aspect, which is also really male dominated. The teams themselves tend to be quite full of guys rather than having any sort of balance. And, it's the same as you go up into ownership of teams and motorsport and things like that. It is really a male space. So it's definitely something that I think there is a lot of push within the industry and then within, women's networks as well to start to grow into that space, whether it's the, the STEM programs and things that a lot of these companies are really starting to push towards. But I think on our side, I've generally been quite fortunate to be in a space where you're not seen as a woman, I guess. For me, it's been really nice as we have grown into being a more couple-oriented experience to have other women who have come and really experienced that adventure and felt like, okay, well, this isn't just a male-dominated space. And, one of my favorite things that I've really noticed with the business in the last couple of years is we're starting to get a lot more solo female drivers, which
that's fun.
Women who are like, I'm not coming with a man. I'm coming on my own. And I love this. And we actually had this amazing woman come last year on a trip. And she is one of the spunkiest human beings I've ever met. She came on a trip. I think we had 17 guys. And so she held her own. She drove every car. Minutes, and she never really gave it a second thought, I guess, or she never felt like she had to push into a space, because we really like to make sure that sense of community is really inclusive and supportive. And, this isn't what we do isn't a rally. It's not a race. There's no gold trophy at the finish line if you get into the hotel first. We're there to enjoy the experience and to enjoy the driving. So I think that with our guest space, you do tend to steer away from having, the boy racer types who are there to just really drive hard and fast and get their, the value out of a supercar for a couple of days or things like that. So, I think that our demographic really works for our business, and there's plenty of other experiences that cater to different types of drivers and people looking for driving experiences. But I wouldn't swap ours.
No, it sounds so special. And I love it too, because you actually, in this case, want to be the last to the hotel, because then you're longest in the vehicle, probably. I would think.
Exactly. See, well, I'm going to put it that.
You mentioned about F1, and I want to ask, because I started following some of the Netflix series, but I'm not well versed by any means. But in F1, has there ever been a female racer driver?
No,
I have no idea. There has.
I don't one series that ever has. Yeah. In Formula 2 and 3, I believe there have been some women drivers, but no one, as far as I know, has progressed.
Interesting.
Because that knowledge field is definitely one of Anthony's
Amazing. Amazing. I'm going to have to do some research because that would be really neat to have like an F2 or F3 female driver on the show. But then also because it makes me think, in one of my first episodes, I interviewed a commercial airline pilot for WestJet. And she, it was really, really interesting just to hear her story and getting into aviation. But I feel a lot of it's probably the same in the motoring world, where you almost growing up as a female maybe don't even know it's an option for you. You maybe don't even know that you could do it. And that was kind of her case too, where she didn't even know aviation was an option because no one ever presented it. Then when someone was like, oh, well, I'm taking this, she's like, well, why the hell can't I take that? So I'd be super curious how all of that relates to, within the F1 world. So speaking of F1, now tell me about this super yacht F1 experience, because this also sounds like I need to have bottles of champagne and being on this yacht during F1.
It is amazing. It is my favorite weekend of the year. It's by far the most stressful weekend of the year. When we go into the event, we run 4 driving tours around the Monaco Grand Prix weekend itself. So we actually
And when is the weekend?
It's the last weekend of May normally. So it's the last full weekend of May. So normally around the 24th to the 26th, that weekend falls around those dates. So it's a really beautiful time of year because it's coming into the summer. So it's, it's late spring, early summer. It's before Europe really gets too busy. So it's a great time to be out on the roads, really getting up into the countryside and sort of before the camper vans come out to play, the European camper vans and and all of the, the traffic and the tourism and the tourists that come along with it. So we run the 4 trips. We have 2 longer trips. One that starts at a destination in Europe and runs down to Monaco. And then on the other side, so the guests are together on the yacht. And then the second group drives and does the trip in reverse. So this year we started in Zurich and we went down through the Swiss Alps, crossed through the Italian Lakes region, so through Como and Lake Maggiore, into the Piedmont wine region, and then down into the Maritime Alps into Provence. So it's sort of 5 days. It's 4 days of driving split across 5 days. And so the way we sort of say with days of driving is we have longer days and shorter days. So now that we own our own fleet, we do have this luxury where instead of paying on a per day rental for cars, they're per kilometer for us because we own them now. So we can actually split out the driving and we can have rest days or we can have short days and we can do a lot of things that people in our space who are still renting the vehicles can't do because you tend to have them on a per day basis. So you have to maximize your time and your usage of the cars. So we have the rest days and the short days and things spread across the drive. And then you get into Monaco and we have I think it's a 53 foot. What is it? That's 175. Oh, sorry, 53 meter. It's about 175.
Okay. Oh, that's big. Yeah, it's a big yacht. It's a big boat.
It is a big boat. So it's a tri-deck super yacht that we charter for the Grand Prix, and we have the guests from the 4 different driving tours on board. We also have another sort of 20 or so who are normally partners or friends or associated with guests who are part of the driving group. So it's sort of that really tight-knit community, even though it is a larger group for us. But we charter the super yacht. We bring in, we met a chef a few years ago in Tuscany, actually during COVID. So we traveled to Europe during COVID, during the lockdowns, and we got stuck in Italy. Terrible place to be stuck in. But we spent a lot of time in Florence and we got to build an amazing network of connections down there. We have an amazing trip now built out of Tuscany. But we met this young chef and he was trained in a Michelin star restaurant and he's running these master classes in pasta making and all sorts of things. So he's a really interesting young guy. And we said to him, Michele, will you come to Monaco and be our chef on the super yacht? So he closed down his restaurant and comes across and makes the most incredible, Florentina steaks and paella and all. And then we have chefs and bartenders and flair tenders from around the world that we fly in as well. So award-winning flair tenders. We staff the whole bar with, we stock the whole bar with champagne. We have a palette of champagne that we work with a network of suppliers and all sorts of cocktails and things. And the weekend is just incredible. So you've got, the race happens, the Formula One happens, but for anyone who sort of does follow Formula One, Monaco is not the most interesting race in terms of what happens on the track. It's what happens off the track. It's the glitz and the celebrity and the extravagance and being on a super yacht in this harbor, which is surrounded by super yachts. And yes.
The harbor looks incredible too, because you have a picture on your guys' website and it's this it's a huge what is it called? A big U-turn essentially that they go around, but then you have these massive yachts stacked. I don't even know how they get in and out. It's like a jigsaw puzzle, but the yacht actually leave the harbor as well for a cruise, or it pretty much stays there?
So basically it's actually anchored down by divers. So the first year we chartered, we got this bill for like 4,000 euros for divers. We're like, guys, we didn't order any divers. And they were like, oh, well, that's actually when your boat was in.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. That's funny because my risk management insurance brain goes off a little bit because we work with a lot of marinas. And when I saw the marina, I'm like, I don't understand how this is safe. But that makes sense. If it's fully anchored down by divers. Oh, too funny. So I know you mentioned celebrities as well. Have you guys had any celebrities on your trips or any that you're allowed to tell or drop a hint about?
We have had a lot of big celebrities. I mean, I think because I'm not sure if maybe because people don't tend to travel with groups.
Other people, yeah.
Yeah, they might book things privately. But, we have had some really interesting characters over the years and people who are very, very successful in their respective fields. And sometimes that's been racing car drivers and, people who are, I guess, sort of celebrities in a niche area. Some amazing guests come from the States as well. And, it's one of those things that sometimes you don't know if someone is a millionaire perhaps or a billionaire, and we have had both. And it's often the people who are the most discreet and quiet who are, the people who are perhaps on a upper level.
Totally showing up in sweatpants, being like, yeah, I got a couple billion in the bank. No big deal. Big deal. Exactly. What would you say your favorite or like most popular like memory would be on one of these trips? Is there anything that kind of stands out for you?
Such a hard one, I guess, because there's so many different things that you love for different reasons. I mean, for me, Monaco Grand Prix is always highlight. So as I was saying, it's the most chaotic period for us. And I said to Anthony at the start of this year's Grand Prix, it's about just over 3 weeks for us now with the 4 driving tours at Grand Prix weekend itself. I was like, oh my God, yes, it's Christmas time, except everyone's lobbing grenades at you and everything's on fire.
Life of a tour operator right there. Life of a tour operator.
Be a swan, it's a theatre performance really, because there's a lot of moving parts. What we do is an absolute circus. When you've got on the big driving tours that we run around the Grand Prix, we have 32 guests, we have about 15 team members, and then we have also our team who are operating on the boat as well. So we have about 40 team members and then 120 guests in total across the 4 different driving tours and the extras on the yacht itself. So the logistics of that are huge, and there's always something happening. My phone, we joke, is it's just like this, never ending sound on my phone. There's just beeps and rings and something happening and people just needing something. So the running joke is my name on tour is Hey Jules, because hey Jules, do you mind if I'm Jules, I missed my flight. Hey Jules, I can't find my chauffeur. Very stressful, but when you've got everyone together on the Sunday afternoon and this is happening and it's just quiet, ruin it. Everyone's there successfully. You look around the boat and, and people are having the most amazing time, and you get to the end and you're like, wow, like we pulled this thing together. Like, how did we make this event happen? Which is such a big thing. And, we are quite a small team. Like, we're not a huge business. We have about sort of 10 to 12 team members, full-time team members, sort of who are on the administrative side, or I guess the back of house side of the events. And then on the event themselves, we have about, 14 drive team on the big events. And then, it's and this huge orchestra of an operation. So to see it all come together and, we start planning it. So I've already planned, I'm in the works for 2025 now. So 2024, we're locked and loaded. Everyone's already, everything's already booked. I think almost even on the guest side, probably about 70% sold in the places. So it's really sort of 2 years of lead time. So sometimes you're planning something and when you actually get to it, you're like, wow, I didn't really think about how this was going to pan out when I was putting these dominoes in place 2 years ago.
Wow.
Together and you're planning the roads and the hotels, you're like, wow, what was I thinking? I started planning this route. Was I just having a moment? But it's days where I wasn't using my brain.
Yeah. Hey, they happen. They happen to the best of us.
So it's like, you've got to drive from here to here in a certain amount of time. So you've got to make it work and things like that. And it's all those little pieces that you put in place along the way. And, you set these domino pieces and there's thousands of pieces in place and you hope that they're going to fall where they're going to fall. And then, on the day that the first event starts for that trip, you kind of hit the dominoes into motion and they just fall wherever they want to. And you're like, no, what are you doing over there? You're supposed to be here. But then you have to react to wherever they land. You have it was meant to be like that.
It's one of those things. It's always the calm below the storm is what we would say in the travel agency world, because people would walk in and be like, oh, you guys don't look busy. And every time we would twitch, being like, this is the tip of the iceberg, my friend. There's so much going on. But that just goes to show, again, like the frictionless travel. It's for everyone else. For you guys, you're the smoother overs. So very, very cool. Very cool. With all the trips and everything, what is the price range for these? Like, what's like a 3 or 4 day weekender versus, your long big ones? What's kind of just to give everyone an idea of price range for these? I mean, you got a $500,000 car. I mean, I know it's not a cheap trip. Okay. It's not. Yeah. You're paying for the experience and luxury.
Exactly. And it's also the peace of mind, I think, is a big thing. So when we talk about building the value in the experiences that we offer, so particularly, we offer different products. So we offer, for example, self-guided tours, which is basically where we plan a route, we plan all the stops along the way, we book all the accommodation and we make all the arrangements, and then guests take one of our cars and they go by themselves on the self-guided experience. But it's all planned and organized, so it kind of takes away that risk factor of, the unknown when you're traveling. And then we have the small group tours as well, which are all inclusive. So from the moment you arrive until the moment you depart, every single thing is taken care of, whether it's the coffee at the morning tea or, it's the drinks, it's wine pairings, it's every single thing, every experience, every movement is taken care of. So you never have to take your wallet out of your pocket, basically. So it's definitely, a higher price point. We sort of say typically it operates around $1,500 to $2,500 US per person per day.
Yeah.
And it really depends, I guess, on how you want to package it up. So we do offer a lot of customizations and tailoring options for people, whether it's, with the accommodation packages, for example, we have a gold, a platinum, and a black standard. So the gold is, the standard room at a 5-star hotel, which is amazing, right? It's still going to be good. The platinum is normally sort of a deluxe category or something that's sort of in that middle space. And then the black is a suite or something in that kind of, the higher end of travel. And that lets people really choose what they want to invest in. And for some people, to be honest, you don't spend a huge amount of time in rooms because we are moving generally from space to space. And, you're out driving in the daytime, you come in, you have a beautiful spa package or something in the afternoon, or you're doing a wine tasting, you have dinners and things like that. So, for some people, they don't see the value in spending that extra in optioning up a room category. But some people, that's their thing and that's what they want. And, they want nothing but the best, and that's amazing. So you've got to have for everyone's different price point. But what we really like to say is where we build the value, because we have had people, of course, say to us, well, I can just rent a Ferrari for, whatever, 1,500 euros a day. And then I can just book myself a 5-star hotel for 500 euros a day. And, then I'm half of your price. But what we like to say is, sure, you can do that. But as I sort of said earlier, in this space, there are a lot of cowboys operating. So you might rent a Ferrari, you might pay a big deposit up front, or, you have to book it in advance. And you turn up and you find out, firstly, that operator isn't even real. They don't exist.
Yeah, you got a fiat. You
turn up and it's just, there's nothing at the airport. You arrive, the operator never answers the phone again, because this actually genuinely does happen and in this space. Or you turn up and the beautiful brand new red Ferrari convertible you're expecting is 10 years old and it has 100,000 kilometers on the clock, and it has been in each of its lives. And then the oil lights on, the engine lights on, it's the car is broken, or it's just not the nice luxury experience you were hoping for. And then, okay, so let's say you actually get the car that you want. Where are you going to drive it? Like, we have spent years of our lives driving all of the roads in Europe. I actually, on my Google Maps, I have pins for every single road we've driven over the years.
Oh, cool. Ooh, can you share that to me? Can you share me like a screenshot? I want to see. Yeah, that's
a screenshot. And we have every road mapped, and it's, good road. This road is quite bumpy. This road turns into a dirt road. Don't use this road, because that's really important when you're driving these cars. You never know when, at any point in any country, really, when a road you're driving on might turn into a dirt road, and then all of a sudden you're stuck, or you've got stone chips, or you've damaged the car in some way, or something's happened. And so, you've got potentially an excess on your hands, or something with the car, or the car's broken, and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
But then the other side of that is maybe you just have a really boring driving experience. So you just drive really busy, heavily trafficked road, and it's sure you're still driving. That's great, but you missed out on this opportunity to really drive some roads.
Or even you're so focused on the drive and the route, and then you have your co-pilot maybe trying to punch things into GPS. You're missing a lot of what's going on, or you're not even understanding that old building you just drove past was some historic, beautiful monument or something, right? So even that in itself is valuable. And even the price point, I mean, it's a lot, but it's like, you go to the Maldives and you stay in a resort in the Maldives, those are $1,000, $1,500 plus a night. And you're getting that luxury experience. You're getting the food. It's more of the all-inclusive. You have that exclusivity, which is exactly what you guys are providing too. So if you want that, you will figure out a way to be able to pay for it, for sure.
Exactly. And then you've got sort of with the Maldives experience, often the all-inclusive packages are quite limited. And, we've been to the Maldives, we've done the 4 days on the beach and sipping cocktails and things. And, this is included in the package and then this isn't. And then you're buying cocktails or buying the nice wine that you want to drink sort of thing. And then you get the extra at the end and you're like, oh, I see that wasn't that price point. That was actually quite a lot more than I was too.
Yeah. We're guilty of that one too in the Maldives when we went. We're like, oh well, I guess we're here now. They got you on an island in the middle of the Indian Ocean.
You're literally captive. And of course you're going to spend money because you're going to say, well, I don't know when I'm going to come back again. So we might as well throw it all in and, and really enjoy the experience rather than having that kind of mediocre where you're drinking a wine that you really don't quite like or something like that. One thing we always say to our guests, like, don't be afraid to let us know what you do and don't like. So if we're serving a red wine and that's not your preferred type of red wine, let us know. We'll change it. If we're serving you wine at dinner and you don't even like wine, don't get to the end of the trip and say, oh my God, I hate wine. We've just served it to you for 6 nights straight. So, tell us if it's a gin and tonic, whatever it is, let us know. And then we'll swap it out. We'll tailor it, all that sort of stuff to make sure that you really have that incredible experience because that's what we want people to have. We want them to get to the end of the trip. And what we tend to hear from guests is they say, at the beginning, it's a lot of money, but then at the end, it's incredible value. So that's the trade-off, right? I mean, if you want to have a less expensive experience, then you'll have a less expensive experience in every sense, whether it's money that you put down or the experience that you have.
Yeah, very true. Well said. Very well said. And it's, sometimes you can't put a price on it as well, right? That experience and those memories, because we all know all this stuff we can't take with us in the end. It's all the memories that we'll hold on to, right? For those that are starting out in tourism, let's say, or they're wanting to start their own tourism business, tour operator business, what type of advice do you have for them?
I think the main thing is, well, firstly, if you're going to start any business, you have to be so passionate because there are, I feel like it often gets glamorized a lot these days, what we're doing in the travel industry itself. And, there are a lot of, influencers and people who make those images look amazing. And behind that, whether it's for influencers themselves or whether it's you're a business owner, there are so many unglamorous aspects. And, we often joke all about our friends and often our even our guests who come on trips and things. They say, oh God, I would take your job in a second. It's just amazing. And my friends are like, oh, all you do is drive through the countryside in Ferraris and stay in castles. I was like, yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm in an Airbnb down the road, 12 team members and, trying to washing at 11 o'clock at night. But, that's the glamorous side that no one wants to hear about. That is the reality as well. Like, for example, Anthony, my partner is currently right now towing cars with our team members down to Verona because that's the new reality of our business. Now that we own a fleet, it's incredible and it's an amazing opportunity, but they need to be moved around. And, so the CEO of our business is currently driving a van, towing a trailer. So I think, that's a really important thing that you have to keep in mind is that it's not always glamorous, and keep that in mind. You have to be willing to put those hard yards in. I mean, I would say on average, I work 7 days a week and it's amazing what I do and I love what I do and I would never change it because it is your own business. So everything you put in, you get back out again. But sometimes, I look at my friends and they're having an amazing weekend and, sipping wine somewhere and hanging out. And I often miss those opportunities. And we've made a lot of sacrifices with our business, with the choices that we've made in our life to choose travel and to choose the business. And that's often come at a sacrifice of our lives, our personal lives, whether that's missing birthdays and Christmases and anniversaries and weddings and all sorts of things. And I feel like I do perpetually apologize to my friends and to our family. You know, you have to be willing, I guess, to make those sacrifices as well. So it's not just the hard work, it's the personal sacrifices that you also have to be willing to make. But that comes with the upside as well, because if you love travel, if you want that experience, then, you know, it's worth it. It's worth it every single second of every single day. And you would always those choices. So I think that's the big one. And, you know, my second piece of advice would be just to invest in yourself and to continue always to really develop every skill set. So every time you identify a weakness, you know, invest in yourself, invest in the business and keep putting that back in so you can continue to grow and evolve. And, you know, but the other flip side of that, I guess, is as you're growing a business, know when to take a hat off as well. So as we've grown a business over the years, you know, being the first full-time employee in Ultimate Driving Tours, I wore every single hat in the business. I've literally done every single role except for lead car driver. I've never been a lead car driver.
It's next on the list. Next on the list.
So, yeah, I would definitely leave that to the professionals. Maybe one day maybe we can have like a tootle around tour where we can all just tootle around.
Yes, great idea.
That can be the first ladies tour. We can just have a ladies only tour where
the Tootle Tour by Julie. That's it. Sold.
Right there as well. I'm on it. Yeah, you can come on it as well. We can do it together.
I'm in. I'm so in.
Yeah. So having worn every hat in the business, you know, sometimes the hardest thing is, and so for example, this year we've hired 3 new team members. It's been a really big, I guess, it's been a big thing to do in the business because it's been incredibly expensive. So we've hired some people that are paid more, and Anthony and I combined, because, you know, we obviously pay ourselves a relatively low salary because the business does offset a lot of our expenses and, you know, because we're traveling constantly. So sometimes when you're looking at that and when you're doing the pay and things each month and you're like, oh, wow, like, you know, I love that we're growing. I love that we're a business. And, you know, we've got these people who actually know what they're doing, which is the best part. Because often, you know, and that's the imposter syndrome. I think we do really feel a lot as women. Like any minute now, somebody's going to come up to me and be like, we know you have no idea what you're doing, which is so true. But yeah, if you're not willing to take off a hat, then you'll never grow. Because if a business is only built on you, then it's not really a business. You know, I think there is definitely a phrase for it. But you need to be able to trust people, and you need to be able to hand it over to the right person at the right time and be able to get some of your life back as well, which is something that I guess I'm really starting to love and enjoy now that, you know, Ultimate Driving Tours is we're calling it a terrible teen now. You know, it's our baby, right? We don't have kids. We can't. Another sacrifice that we've made with the business, Ultimate Driving Tours has grown from being a baby to being a toddler, and it's terrible twos, which is, you know, we're not probably standing on each other's toes and not knowing where we're sat in the business. And now it's a teenager, you know, and people coming in who are taking parts of the business and who are doing it in their own way. And you need to give people that freedom to take the business and to grow it in different ways. You might, you know, be like, oh, that's not the way I would have done it, but it can end up in a place that you never knew where it would go. So I think that that's another really important thing as you get into trouble, and you start to build businesses, is to know when to wear a hat, but to know when to take it off.
No, it's great advice, especially the passion aspect, because that's something you can always draw back on when things are getting tough. It kind of brings you back to your why. Why am I doing this? Why am I here? And then also, you're right, all the hats are so important, because then you can also see how people are running the business. But you're right, like, to have other people's ideas come in, that's how you're going to continue to grow. That's how it's only going to get better and better and better when you guys are allowed. And then eventually one day, who knows, you guys can sell off the business. You guys can still have a hand in it, but maybe you guys are just on the super yacht year round, and then everything else is working like clockwork, right? So it's that drive that you put in now, which is incredible. So thank you. Yeah.
I was just going to say, our dream is to be on the super yacht in Monaco and just to chat to people and have people say, oh, who are you? I was like, oh, I'm Julie, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I just say, oh, nice to meet you. I have no idea who I am. And I want to watch the new Hey Jules in the background, the grenades in the fire. So I'd be like, no, don't even come near me. Yeah, I do not feel like
you got this, girl. You got this.
Yeah. It looks magical right now. It looks like it's so smooth.
Yeah. You're doing so good. You'll be like the pump up crew in the behind the scenes in that way. Good. But that's kind of where it needs to evolve, right? And seeing your vision of where you guys want to take it, which obviously you guys have done so much with the company as it is, which is really, really cool. So where can people find you online, social media?
Yeah, sure. So ultimatedrivingtours.com. is where you'll find our website. And then we're on all of the socials as well. So Facebook, Instagram, it's Ultimate Driving Tours. So you can just look up our hand and find us. And LinkedIn, if anyone does want to reach out to me or continue the conversation in any way as well.
Very cool. Well, thank you. I just really appreciate your time, your insight, and just truly showing that you can turn your passion into a full-blown career and a full-blown business. And you don't have to let your passion be sacrificed. Because a lot of people too, I've heard, oh, I'm really good at this, but it's my passion. And if I turn it into a business, I might hate it. So it's really one of those things where it's finding that balance too. So just thank you so much again for taking the time with me today.
Thanks for bringing me on, and it's been so amazing to chat and to share my experience, and I'd love to hear more about yours as well over time.
Yes, absolutely. So thank you again, and thank you all so much for everyone that has joined us today on this episode. If you like what you've heard, please subscribe, follow along. You can find me on all the streaming channels and now YouTube as well, which is really exciting. And until next time.
Thank you to Hotel Z Kelowna, Victoria, and Tofino for being our sponsor. You can also save 15% off your next getaway using the code DARES2, DARES 2, the number 2, at hotelz.com. These funky and unique hotels are in British Columbia, and they're going to have you not wanting to leave while you're on your next vacation. Enjoy! If you like this episode, please subscribe, download a few more, and leave a review. I really would love to hear from you, what you enjoyed and what your key takeaways were. And of course, please let me know if there's any aspect of the travel industry you want me to talk about next. You can also search for the hashtag #SheDaresToTravelPodcast on Instagram and comment on the episode's post with your questions. I'd love to answer them all for you guys. I hope you enjoy your day, stay so well, and until next time, fly straight.